Coming up in this episode of In Clear Focus.
I'm always rooting for social media managers. Sometimes early on, you just don't receive a lot of support that you want or what you're looking for. And so I'm sharing all of the things that I wish I knew when I started this journey in social media.
You're listening to In Clear Focus, fresh perspectives on marketing and advertising, produced weekly by Big Eye, a strategy-led full-service creative agency growing brands for clients globally. Hello, I'm your host, Adrian Tennant, Chief Strategy Officer. Thank you for joining us. Celebrating its 20th anniversary this year, the social networking site Facebook originally launched as The Facebook on February 4th, 2004, initially accessible only to students at Harvard. The following year, in 2005, YouTube debuted as a video sharing platform, and 2006 saw the introduction of microblogging on Twitter. In the years that followed, Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest, and TikTok launched. Today, social media is a key marketing tool, with corporations, brands, nonprofits, government officials, and celebrities all having social accounts to communicate directly with followers. As platforms have developed, so has the role responsible for setting content strategy and driving engagement, namely the social media manager, who typically needs to be good at telling stories, have an eye for design, and be able to figure out which types of content resonate most with audiences on each of the social platforms. The Big Eye Book Club selection for January is Organic Social Media: How to Build Flourishing Online Communities. The book's author is Jenny Lee Fowler, a recognised voice in social media marketing and the Director of Social Media Strategy at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. To discuss her new book and share practical tips for developing the skills needed to thrive as a social media manager, I'm delighted that Jenny is joining us today from Cambridge, Massachusetts. Jenny, welcome to In Clear Focus.
Oh, thanks so much. I'm excited to be here.
Well, like me, you started your career in broadcasting. So how did you become involved in managing social media?
I feel like kind of by accident, really. I left broadcasting and had sort of a moment because I thought, what am I going to do now? And that I just kept on looking for that thing, which sparked interest and, got my curiosity going in every next position I was in. And at first it was sort of content strategy, and it introduced me to blogging and the aspect of social because there's the commenting and getting back to people. And then my next position, I did half web editorial and half social media, and social media just became more and more of my job, and I was really enjoying it. And I thought, gosh, if I could make that part 100% of my job, then that would be really cool. And then my current position, the position opened and it was a natural fit. And here I am today.
Well, you've held social media management positions at State Farm Auto, Harvard Kennedy School of Government, and of course, you're currently the Director of Social Media Strategy at MIT. Now, although you're also well known as a writer and speaker at events such as HubSpot's Inbound Conference, Organic Social Media is your first book. So what prompted you to write it?
You say first, like there's going to be more. I'm not sure about that, but I'm just going to enjoy the moment of this book. There are a lot of marketing books and social media marketing books with a capital M, but I just felt like there was an opportunity to write a book about organic social, because that's where so many social media managers start their careers, is really by doing things organically or, working for smaller brands. And I'm always rooting for social media managers, and I just want them to succeed in where they are in their careers. And sometimes early on, you just don't receive a lot of support that you want or what you're looking for. And so I'm sharing all of the things, I guess, in this book that I wish I knew when I started this journey in social media. So yeah, here we are.
Jenny, in your book, you describe a conversation with your supervisor at the time about strategy versus tactics that you now view as a career course correction. So what is the difference, and why is understanding it crucial for success in social media?
Yeah, this was huge. When I had this conversation with my supervisor, and I just thought, it really got me thinking about it, right? And so, strategy is more like zooming yourself out, and all of a sudden you're thinking more broadly and long game. Whereas, tactics are like you're a practitioner and you're being told to do these things and you do these certain steps. So I keep on refining the way I explain this, but I think of it as like playing chess, right? And when you go into it, your goal is to beat your opponent, but you might have like a strategy going into it. And they have names like double pawn and king's end game or king in the end game. They have interesting names, but you go in with that strategy, but then it takes thought, it takes response, it takes a process, it takes observation because you're seeing what your opponent is doing. So it's very fluid and it takes all those things and it takes constant thought, it takes reaction, right? But the tactics are like moving the pieces themselves. So if you're moving your pawn this way or you're moving your king one way, that's a tactic. But if you're just moving the pieces, and just doing tactics, then you're kind of playing a game, but the pieces aren't all moving toward the same goal. So when you have a strategy, they're all performing in conjunction of this goal that you have of getting your opponent's king or winning the game. And so it's just a different level of thinking, and it really makes your usage of the channels more sophisticated.
You share a framework that you've developed that you use to create a new organic social media strategy. Can you explain what the 6 M's are?
Yes, my 6 M's. So mission, message, management, medium, metrics, and monitoring. And I think this is a great way to remember a framework for a solid strategy because you need all these pieces, I believe. So mission is what are you hoping to accomplish using social media, your message, what stories are you telling on your channels, management, what are your processes and procedures, medium, what are your primary platforms that you're using? What channels are you selecting? Because, a lot of people believe you need to be in all those spaces, and I disagree. You should be more selective in the channels that you're in. Metrics, of course, what are you tracking? And monitoring. Are you listening to your audience for feedback and what they're communicating to you?
And you cover all of those within the book. Now, related to strategy, you also write about the way that social media has traditionally been measured by sales and marketing goals, such as increasing brand awareness, boosting conversions, or delivering customer service. But I know you believe there's a greater opportunity to align social media with an organization's broader goals. So how do you recommend that social media managers approach goal setting?
It's really important for us to think about the channels that we have. And so, whereas a mission or a goal for a broader company might be to launch a new product and have $10,000 in new revenue for Q1, it's sort of hard to connect those dots with revenues and sales through social media, but you can help support that goal. So you just have to keep your tools in mind and say, we're going to support this by posting this campaign until this date. And then we're also going to create videos that help launch the new, whatever it may be. And just to be really specific in naming it and saying what you plan to do with your channels to support the goal. And I think it just makes it really crystal clear, like how you're using the channels to support the organization's goals. And all of a sudden, you've got a very specific thing that you're going to use your channels for. So I think sometimes we overthink it, and it doesn't have to be hard. If the organization goals are up here, we really have to make it specific to the channels that we're using and how we're going to use them.
I really liked your suggestion of going on a listening tour. So Jenny, can you explain what it is?
Yeah, I just think this is important, especially whenever you start at a new organization, but you should really just talk to as many people as possible. I think anytime I start a new position, I'm buying lots of coffee and tea, maybe just to listen to people. And these are the people that are invested in the brand and the organization. And these are the people that have had an inside look at the organization, and they sort of know what is working and they know what's not working, right? And so when you can talk to them and really get a sense of what they think, maybe your audience doesn't know that's really, really cool about your brand or organization, or maybe something that could be promoted more that people are unaware of. These are all messages that you can create to share with the broader audience. Because like I said, these folks are bought in and they're engaged and they have a wealth of information, and you're just sort of mining that information.
You also write about making social media goals smart. Could you give us an example?
Yes. And by smart, we mean specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, right? I think if you take a broader goal and you make it tactical for social, it becomes smart. And what I mean by that is if we took that earlier goal we were talking about, like we're going to launch a new product and we want to help our organization gain $10,000 more in revenue for the first quarter, write out the tactics. So that's our goal. So with our social media channels, we're going to support our company. We're going to pre-launch, post an Instagram story a week and do an interview. We're going to give samples to people and do a video of them responding to the product once a week. And then maybe post-launch, we're going to do micro-influencer campaigns. So you name the tactics. And so if you write it out, it's sort of, so we're going to support our company this way by doing this, and this, and we're going to reevaluate everything at the end of Q1. So all of a sudden that becomes smart. It's very specific. You're saying exactly what you're doing. It's measurable because are you posting an Instagram story a week? You can kind of measure that, right? It's relevant because it's right in line with the company's mission or goal for Q1. And it's time bound. So relevant and it's time bound because you're saying we're going to reevaluate at the end of the quarter. So I know I'm just I'm trying to like squish down an entire chapter but basically if you make it tactical and write out your tactics, that whole thought or paragraph is your smart social media goal for whatever time.
In organic social media, you have a chapter devoted to audiences. So Jenny, how do you identify the right audiences for social media in ways that help you as a manager tailor content for them?
Right. So these are your community members, right? The folks that enjoy your product, that are engaging with your content. And slowly through being in these channels every day, you get to learn what they like and what they don't like. And for me, I always say that an engagement of any kind, the public interaction, a share or a like, comments are pretty obvious, right? They'll straight tell you they like something or they don't like something. So those are all votes on the content that they want to see more of. And when there's a piece of content that gets a lot of engagements, I really do what I call digital detective work. You really look into what was it about this piece of content that really resonated with people? Can I repeat it? Was it the image? Was it the time of day? So I think by really observing the content and really looking at what your audience is engaging with, you start to find your community and what they like and what their love language is and what their trigger words are. And you just use that information to inform content. And the more you can do that, the more your content becomes more of a signal than noise and, to attract your community.
You believe that, quote, your social media following is not your community, end quote. So Jenny, can you unpack that for us?
Sure. I mean, just because you have your following number, your follow total, we have to be realistic. There are a lot of bots out there. There are also people who are part of the media that are following you just because they might want some media scoop or an idea. And there's also people that follow you because they don't like you. They follow you because they want to troll you. I mean, that's just sort of an ugly fact about social media. So, your follower total is not necessarily your community. However, you've got your fans that really love your product or love your brand or really has a lot of characteristics in common with what you provide or the information you provide or the value you provide. And hopefully your community is greater in numbers than the people that are just following you to troll you. But that's who you're trying to find. And a lot of times they police each other and, they'll police your audience and they'll come and defend you if there's misinformation about you. And those are the people that you are really trying to target, right? And that's your community, the ones that really are your ambassadors and that love you and talk about you in real life, right? Not just in the digital spaces. So there is a distinct difference, but I do believe there are a lot of us that find our communities online, and it's still can be a very, very healthy space as long as you curate that space and manage that space and provide a really, really good experience for your community in those spaces.
Let's take a short break. We'll be right back after this message.
Hi, I'm Jenny Lee Fowler, the author of January's Big Eye Book Club selection, Organic Social Media, How to Build Flourishing Online Communities. My book is a guide to enhancing your brand's growth through effective digital engagement. I provide you with strategies for selecting the right platforms, streamlining approval processes, and building an organic online presence that's aligned with your broader objectives. The book also covers content planning, goal setting, and resource management, providing you with insights into executing plans and tracking your success. Save 25% on a print or electronic version of my book by using the exclusive code BIGEYE25. This code is valid for all titles from my publisher Kogan Page, including pre-orders and their free paperback and ebook bundle offer. Shipping is always free to the US and UK when you order directly from Kogan Page, and it supports authors like me as well. So to order your copy of Organic Social Media, go to koganpage.com. Thank you.
Welcome back. I'm talking with Jenny Lee Fowler, the Director of Social Media Strategy at MIT and the author of this month's Big Eye Book Club selection, Organic Social Media, How to Build Flourishing Online Communities. You write about the fact that earlier in your social media career, you were using Google+, Periscope, and Storyfy, reminding us that platforms come and go. But you also highlight the pressure that sometimes exists to take on every new platform. With so many social platforms available today, how should social media managers decide which platforms are the best fit for their brands?
Right. I think a lot of times people fall into that trap of like the hip and trendy thing. And if you mention that new platform, then you're kind of in and you're trendy. But I don't think that you should always be attracted by the shiny new thing that's being dangled in front of you. You should be more thoughtful. Like in your question, it's true. Social media platforms come and go. There's so many that don't even make it out of the beta testing phase, right? There's so many. So you should be more thoughtful about it and wait and see what the platform becomes, because sometimes it launches and it seems like everyone's, jumping on that bandwagon, but you kind of don't know where the audience is going to take it or which audiences it's even going to attract. So it's really important for you to observe and recognize, okay, there seems to be this new platform that is not going away. It seems to be gaining momentum, but who's on the platform? Is it your audience or is it a potential new audience that you can attract? I mean, it just has to align, right, with your goals or the audience that you're trying to seek. And, would it help you with your strategy in helping to support your goals? These are all things that we should consider instead of just jumping on the newest fad. Too often, people are putting the cart before the horse because they're signing up for the platform and they're not thinking about all those things I just mentioned, right? Is our audience there? Do we have the type of content that fits in this platform? Like all of these things that you should think about beforehand to be successful in a platform. Those conversations aren't always had, and they should be had. They should be had before you actually sign up for a new account.
Well, once a manager has defined the strategy, set goals, knows their audience, and determined which social platforms to use, it's time to create content. So Jenny, what are some of your top tips for creating engaging content?
So I do have a list, right, that I mentioned in my book, and maybe I'll keep that for those who read. But overall, like good content, they do share some tangible characteristics. And for the most part, they provide value, right? People like to follow accounts that they're learning things from, or they're being entertained regularly from. It's informative, or it makes me laugh regularly. It provokes that emotion. If I'm sharing it, like when the content is being shared, that's the ultimate compliment that people want to share it. And if you mention it to someone like, oh, I just saw in TikTok, or I just saw in LinkedIn, this and this. So when it jumps off platform and is being shared in real life, then it's got that really great quality. I often say that really, really good content jumps platforms. So what I mean by that is it doesn't matter what platform it is, which is why, like I tell people, you don't have to be in all the platforms. Just choose a couple that fits what you're trying to do and do it really, really well. How often have you seen people screenshot tweets or X posts, I guess it is now, and they'll share it in LinkedIn or even in Instagram? Or how many TikToks have you seen in Instagram? Or how many videos have people actually direct messaged you? Good content just gets shared everywhere. So if we concentrate more on creating really, really great content that resonates, it'll reach your audience. I don't think we need to necessarily overextend ourselves and being in every single platform, especially if you're mediocre at them, right? Because that really doesn't help.
Jenny, what advice would you give to a brand that's struggling to engage its audience organically?
When there is a brand that is finding it difficult or having a hard time to engage their audience, I often wonder if it's because they're listening to someone else and not their audience. Exactly. Like if they're catering to an audience of one, right? Like maybe that one person might be really, really important, but still it's not their broader audience. So my first recommendation is always to talk to your audience, like ask your audience what you want from them, because they know what they want from you. They kind of know when they follow you, there are specific things that they're hoping to get from you. And so having those conversations, doing polls, or just any chance that you get to speak directly to your audience, I think it's really important to get what their thoughts are on what you should be sharing.
What cadence do you typically recommend for posting organic social content?
This is a hard question to answer because everyone sort of finds their own rhythm in how much their audience wants to see content for them. But starting off, it is really important to really post as often as you can, or as often as a platform lends itself to share content. Like, X it's a beast. You have to constantly post in that platform. Whereas maybe in Facebook and LinkedIn, maybe once a day would be great, ideal, especially starting off. But you might find that, you taper down. But I think especially organically, when you're trying to grow organically, as much as is optimal in each platform is ideal.
We obviously want to track our successes, but also learn from failures. What metrics should managers focus on to gauge the performance of their brand's organic social media?
Yeah, I know I touched upon this before, but when you're dealing with organic content, it's the engagements that really say the most. And so I'm constantly trying to stretch the engagement number, the likes and the shares, because if they stretch, I've noticed then the reach and the impressions stretch as well. But I never take too much stock in reach and impressions because for me, how I interpret it is it might have reached someone's timeline, but it doesn't mean they saw it, right? And definitely, they didn't engage with it, even if they saw it. So I just put more stock in the engagements themselves. So I really think it's important to do that. And then to do more of what works and to stop doing what doesn't. At the start of every year, I like to look at our successful posts from the year before, but I also look at our flops from the year before. And sometimes you see patterns in them. Like this was pre-Reels, but videos within our feed of Instagram were not doing very well. And in fact, they were the worst performing posts in Instagram that particular year. So we just stopped doing them, right? In what used to be Twitter, we noticed that if we posted an article that was 3 questions. It was that opening that for some reason our audience didn't like. So we stopped using that phrase. I just stopped doing what doesn't work and do more of what does. So it's really important. But as much as it is to look at your successes, I feel like I learn more from my failures.
As in life.
Yes, I would agree.
You include a chapter in your book called The Backup Plan. Could you briefly outline your approach to contingency planning?
Yeah, this is so important. I think too often people have one social media manager and it's sort of a mystery what they do. If they happen to be like sick or have a dentist appointment and something needs to be done, no one has the passwords. No one knows where to find the content. No one knows where everything is. If I were to say it in a nutshell, it's like make sure other people have access to everything, the passwords, the email addresses, the processes, the content. You want to make sure that there's more than one person that knows the process, knows the day-to-day sort of cadence of things, so that if something should happen, then everything will continue. Your social media audience shouldn't notice, right? Because everything should be seamless.
It's been a theme of our conversation, but social media is constantly evolving. How do you recommend that managers stay up to date with the latest platforms and content trends?
Yes, this is true. And there are a lot of people that have amazing newsletters and lists and podcasts out there. And that's how I do it, right? Because I know that I'm thinking strategically about my channels and I'm managing things for my organization. And so it's hard to be on top of every other thing that's out there. So if you can, let these other experts that are awesome at doing it and curating it and telling you about what's up and coming, what they're seeing, trends they're seeing, their evaluations, I really recommend taking some time and really going through all of those newsletters or awesome resources that are out there.
Well, you're in the belly of the beast. You're Director of Social Strategy at MIT. Jenny, I've got to ask you, what's your take on the use of AI in organic social media content creation? And where do you think we're headed?
Yeah. It's sort of a marriage of the organization that I work for and all the things, the research and science and everything that comes out of it. And yes, I do social media for that organization. I would say that those who can use it to help them in their day-to-day work, I think it's going to be an amazing asset. Having said that, I think it's still important for you to make the decisions at the end of the day, because I think it's more than ever like authenticity and what's real. And I think real world methodologies are going to be really, really important. But if you can have AI complement what you're doing or help you with what you're doing or cut down the processes, I think that's where it's going to be a real asset.
Finally, what do you hope readers will take away from your book?
I don't know that if there's one thing specifically, but what I would like is that they take away something, right? That they just learned like, oh gosh, I like that framework, or I really like that thought process of how to create my own content calendar. Whatever it is, I just hope that the audience or the reader finds some value in it or has like an aha moment that they will take with them. And yeah, I think that's what I would hope.
Jenny, if In Clear Focus listeners would like to learn more about you and your work, what's the best way to do so?
Find me on the social media platforms, right? I'm in all the platforms, and that's the best way. And of course, my book, there's a page in koganpage.com, and you can find more information there as well.
Yes, and if you'd like a copy of Jenny's new book, Organic Social Media, you can save 25% when you order directly from Jenny's publisher at koganpage.com using the promo code BIGEYE25 at checkout. Jenny, thank you very much for being our guest on In Clear Focus.
Thank you. This was such a great conversation. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks again to my guest this week, Jenny Lee Fowler, the author of this month's Big Eye Book Club selection, Organic Social Media, How to Build Flourishing Online Communities. As always, you'll find a full transcript of our conversation, along with links to the resources we discussed, on the Big Eye website at bigeyeagency.com. Just select podcast from the menu. Thanks for listening to In Clear Focus, produced by Big Eye. I've been your host, Adrian Tennant. Until next week, goodbye.